This video is the second video with polynomials. It's continuing our work from what we did last time, and now we're going to do more with them. We're going to add, subtract, and multiply them. But before we get to that, I want to go back and talk about some things that we didn't get to last time and talking about classifying polynomials by the number of terms and also by the degree. If there's just one term, and remember terms are separated by plus and minus signs, so for example, just something like 3x, okay? That's an example one. That would be a monomial. If there's two terms, now you have like 5x squared minus 7. Because remember, terms are separated by plus and minus signs. That is a binomial. If you have three terms, and you can figure out what that is a trinomial. And finally, if you have 4 and it's really or more terms, then we just refer to them as polynomials. Now, even though 1, 2, and 3 terms have names, we can also just say polynomials with them as well. It's kind of a generic term. Okay, if we classify them by degree, so if the highest degree is 1, then it is linear. And we know what a linear looks like. That's a line. If it's the highest degree is 2, that is quadratic. We just did a whole chapter on that. You know what those look like. They're parabolas. If at the highest degree is 3, that kind of equation is cubic. And we haven't done a lot with them, but we did learn the basic cubic function in the first chapter, so it looks like that, or the parent function we learned. Okay, so you will be responsible for knowing those names and the vocabulary. They're classified by terms or degrees. Okay, what are like terms? And you definitely have done this before in Algebra 1, but just to review it, like terms are terms with the same variable or variables. Oops, that doesn't look like an S. Raised to the same powers. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Now we did this with imaginary numbers, so this is really simply a review, and you most definitely did this in Algebra 1. So as we're looking at this first one, okay, I go through here. Well, the highest exponent is this one, negative 4x to the 5th. Now notice that it's plus, so when it's plus, it doesn't matter. All you're doing is combining like terms. So that's going to be negative 4x to the 5th. Okay, is there anything to the 4th? That's the only one to the 4th. So minus 2x to the 4th. Okay, cubed. Here's 8x cubed. Okay, and here is an x squared. Oh gosh, there's nothing yet to combine. Oh, but now we finally combine it. Oh, this is weird. There's a double plus sign in there. We don't need that. Okay, anything else we can do? Well, oh, these finally are like terms. They can match, so that gives us 12x. And these are whole numbers. They match, so we can add that together and give us negative 12. And that's it. So when you're adding and subtracting, you're just combining like terms. You are not multiplying anything. This one's got a minus sign in between. So when it's a minus, we're going to change the sign of everything in the second parentheses. This becomes plus, negative, negative. All right, now we're ready to combine like terms. Negative 4y squared and positive 1 gives us negative 6y to the 4th. Negative 6y cubed and negative y cubed would be negative 7y cubed. 5y squared and 7y squared is 12y squared. 14 and negative 12 would be 2. That's it. Okay, again, this is minus. If the parentheses were touching, it would be multiplication, but because there's something in between them, then you got to follow the sign. So I'm going to change this to a plus and then change the sign of everything in the parentheses. Now I can combine like terms. On this one, notice you've got x's and y's. They've got to match exactly. So here we've got x squared and y squared. Well, if I look over here, there's no other one that's got x squared and y squared, so that's a standalone. So I have 3x squared y squared. Negative 8x squared y. X squared y. I don't see that combination over. Okay. 5xy. Oh, I see a negative 4xy. So that's going to give me 5 and negative 4 is 1xy, or just xy. And then 7xy squared and 12xy squared. Oh, those match. So 7 and 12 would be 19. There you go. And we're done. All right, now we are multiplying. And we are multiplying because there's no sign in between what we're multiplying and the parentheses. Okay, here there was a sign. We had a plus or minus sign. When you are multiplying, when you multiply, you add the exponents. Okay, so let's see how this goes. Number 4, x cubed times 2x squared. Well, really there's an invisible 1 here. So 1 times 2 is 2. X cubed times x squared. I add them and I get x to the 5th. 1x cubed times negative 4x squared would be negative 4x to the 4th. And then times 9 would be 9x cubed. There's no like terms, so we're done. Try this again on the next one. Negative 2 times 3 would be negative 6. X times x is x squared. Y times y squared is y cubed. Negative 2 times 4 would be positive 8. X times x is x squared. Y times y is y squared. On the last one, negative 2 times 9 is negative 18. X times x squared is x cubed. Y times y is y squared. Now, it may look like the first and the last one match, but here you got x squared and here you got x cubed. Those are not a match. The first two both have x squared, but one's y cubed and one's y squared. Not a match. There's no like terms. All right, let's try this again on number 6. This time, instead of having a monomial times a polynomial, now we have a binomial times a binomial. So 4x times 2x would be 8x squared. 4x times 7y would be 28xy. Negative 3y times 2x would be negative 6xy. Negative 3y times negative 7 would be negative 21y squared. Well, in the middle, we have like terms, so we need to combine them. So I get 8x squared, 28 negative 6 would be 22xy minus 21y squared. Okay, you did a lot of those in Algebra 1. What you may not have done as many of is taken a binomial times a trinomial. So on this, x times x is x cubed plus 10x squared minus 2x plus 5x squared plus 50x minus 10. Okay, got to combine any like terms. So we got x cubed, and then 10x squared and 5x squared would give me 15x squared. Negative 2 and 50 would be 48x, and then minus 10. All right, let's take a look at number 8. So in number 8, same thing. X times x squared is x cubed. And then we get plus 4x squared y, and then minus 6xy squared, minus 2x squared, minus 2xy. Oh, I did that wrong. Negative 2 times 8 would have not, negative 2 times 4 would be negative 8. I apologize, then xy. And then negative 2 times negative 6 would be positive 12. Y squared. Now, if I look at this, I don't have any terms that match. There's some that are similar, but none that are matching. So I'm done. Okay, now I got to take 3 binomials. So when you do this, you can only multiply 2 binomials at a time. So we're just going to take it section by section. So x times x is x squared plus x plus 3x plus 3. This whole thing is multiplied times x minus 2. But before I do that, let's simplify a little bit. So I have x squared plus 4x plus 3, and that's multiplied times x minus 2. Now you can multiply the trinomial times the binomial, or you can multiply backwards. In this case, I kind of prefer to multiply backwards. So x times x would be x cubed, and then 4x squared, and 3x, and then negative 2x squared, negative 8x, and minus 6. Combine like terms, so we have x cubed and 2x squared, and that would give me negative 5x, and then minus 6, and that would be my final answer. Okay, last one. Let's practice this again. So you got to pick 2. It doesn't really matter which 2. I kind of just work from left to right. That's what people naturally do. Okay, x times x is x squared minus 5x plus 4x minus 20. And this whole thing is multiplied times 3 minus x. Simplify. So I have x squared minus x minus 20 times 3 minus x. Now I need to multiply 3 times everything. So that gives me 3x squared minus 3x minus 60. Now I need to multiply negative x times everything. So I get negative x cubed, positive x squared, and positive 20x. Now, when you have the x's and y's, I'm not so concerned about you writing them in descending order, but when it's simple like this with just x's, I think you can easily get them in descending order. So the highest one would be negative x cubed, 3x squared and x squared would be 4x squared, negative 3x and 20 would be 17x, and then minus 60, and that's your final answer. Okay, the last one that we need to do is either to square or cube the polynomial. Notice on 13 and 14 I had a typo. I didn't mean to put square, I meant cube. So just keep that in mind. Now remember, if you square something, it's writing it twice. This is not x squared minus 49 or plus 49. Absolutely not. This is x minus 7 times x minus 7. So now you got to multiply. So we have x squared minus 7x plus 49. Combine the terms in the middle. I get x squared minus 14x plus 49, and that's my answer. Notice you cannot just square each number. It does not work. Okay, so on 12, this would be negative 3x plus 2 times negative 3x plus 2, and I'm going to multiply. Positive 9x squared minus 6x plus 4. Combine the middle terms, 9x squared minus 12x plus 4. Okay, last but not least, we've got a cube. So now it's not written twice, it's written 3 times. So this is x plus 3 times x plus 3 times x plus 3. Remember, you can just do 2 at a time. So this is x squared plus 3x plus 9. If I were you, I'd simplify first. X squared plus 6x plus 9 times x plus 3. First, I can multiply x times everything. So I get x cubed, 6x squared, 9x. Now I got to multiply 3 times everything. So I get 3x squared plus 18x plus 27. Okay, combine like terms. X squared goes first because it's the highest exponent. I've got 6x squared and 3x squared, which is 9x squared. 9x and 18x would be 27x. Whoops, forgot the 7. Take 2. 27x and then plus 27. All right, last but not least, one more. So again, it's got to be written 3 times. So x minus 4, x minus 4, x minus 4. Multiply the first 2. X squared minus 4x plus 16. X minus 4 This gives me x squared minus 8x plus 16 times x minus 4. Now you can multiply by the third one. Multiply everything by x. X cubed minus 8x squared plus 16x. Now multiply by negative 4. Negative 4x squared plus 32x and then minus 64. Okay, combine like terms. Oops, I miswrote this. X times x squared is x cubed. Okay, so I've got x cubed. Negative 8, negative 4 would be negative 12x squared. 16x and 32x would be 48x. And then minus 64. And we're done.